We have this triangle between population, wealth, and technology, or know-how or knowledge. The moment we have know-how and population, we can create wealth. But the moment we have population and wealth only without knowledge, we're going to waste wealth. The first model, we have Singapore, we have Israel, we have Ireland, you know. What matters is that if technology is associated with the human beings for the sake of the human beings. Now, most of the world economy is shifting towards the service economy, this virtual economy. Probably this was one of the grassroots reasons, you know, for the financial crisis that took place. The speed is too fast. Now we are becoming to a paradigm where wealth is creating wealth. In the past, it was wealth creating production, whether agriculture, whether industrial. We find jobs for people. Now, with this virtual paradigm, it's wealth creating wealth, whether it's in the stock market, and the time difference is making it worse. You know, for instance, Bill Gates in New York can push a button of his laptop and taking an opportunity in taking use of some opportunities in China, for instance. Yeah. And because of the time difference, he can do it again in a different continent without even interference from any bank. The structure of our banks, which were resulted by from the Treaty of Agreement of Bretton Woods in 1947, are completely irrelevant to today's world. You know, so I think the question of speed is a problem, but it gives a chance to small country to capitalize on that. Small is beautiful today; they can capitalize on this.
And young people can capitalize on it.
Truly.
We also have to move away from the traditional definition of employment to self-employment, entrepreneurship.
That's true.
And that can create hope even for a poor country, because it can leapfrog if it captures this entrepreneurial spirit.
I think this is very important. I can expect in the future some inter-countries projects where kids virtually, you know, can combine their efforts for one project. Maybe the center is somewhere in Europe, but who took part in that project is spread all over the world, you know. The problem with what I'm saying is that the population growth is exponential. If we have today, the world population is around 6,700,000,000, it's going to be by 2050 something like 9.5 billion. Africa in particular, which is, I think, the fate of the economy of the world would rest with Africa. Africa today is 900,000,075. By 2025, it's going to be 1,258,000,000. But by 2050, it's going to be approaching 2 billion, while Europe is shrinking. Europe by 2050 is going to be less 72 million people. Know-how is in Europe, and poverty is spreading in Africa. Africa by 2050 will have 359 young people in the age from 15 to 39 marching north. So there is a problem, and here where I see a real opportunity for Libya to be a real hub to transform the skills of those Africans and export them to Europe, where they can fit the needs of the European economy. So I think Libya in the future is fitted to play a very cardinal, very pioneering role to serve not the interests of Libya, but the interests of the European economy in particular.
Dr. Chabrel, I think it was very important to put the Libyan situation into a general context. But coming back to Libya for a moment, or to conclude this session, let me ask you, what do you see as the most positive scenario? I know you have been a professor for strategic planning, as I have been, so we like to speak in terms of scenarii. What is your most, let's start with the most pessimistic scenario, and then let's end with the most optimistic scenario. And let's take a time horizon of 3 to 5 years.
Well, the most pessimistic, the worst case scenario is that we fail as Libyans or as TNC or executive office to collect arms from the streets. Tribalism surfaces again and try to play havoc in the social fabric of our countries. Then those will be serious and very grave impediments to those visionary statements I just made, you know. This is the most, and this might result in anything that you can expect, civil strife, at least those visionary developmental scenario will be postponed for a while, you know. And I don't think the Libyans, with their knowledge, with their awareness, after those 42 years of agony and suppression, the moment they think of those 42 years, they will stop from anything that might impede those developmental ambitions.
And you are most optimistic?
My most optimistic is that we'll get to business immediately, that stability and order will be done in a record time. There will be a national consensus about a national vision of development. By the way, you know, we had developed one in 2025 we called the Vision 2025 for Libya, which is mixed modeling and scenario planning together. You know, we came with 3 different scenarios. I hope that this scenario prevails in the near future.
My last question is, you went through an extraordinary time. I mean, being at the head of the executive committee of the Transition Council, the last weeks, I mean, we can only imagine what pressures were on your shoulders. And if you would share the experience you have taken out of those months, if you would share your experience with the audience, what did you learn out of this here in terms of leadership?
Well, first of all, I would admit that those young Libyans, you know, kept surprising me every time. I remember a time when we were squeezed badly by the international community, asking us for a middle way because there was a military stalemate on the ground, and everybody was pushing, try to accept a middle way solution, you know, some sort of compromise with the regime. It was for those young kids, you know, who proved that everybody was wrong, you know. They took things in their hand. I was trying to buy time, you know. At that time, Tripoli uprising was about 2 weeks away, you know. It was for those kids, you know, that they started rolling, and new spirit all of a sudden came out, and they started rolling back the military machine of Gaddafi, you know. And everybody was surprised, including we at the TNC or the executive office, you know. So I would really want to salute those young kids, you know, for the heroic and courageous activities that took place on the ground that changed the whole picture. The other thing, my own humble opinion, I was and still the head of what's called the executive office. There were some people on the ground fighting, and I was giving or devoting most of my time to the political side, how to get recognition of this TNC, you know. And I was racing with time, you know, from country to country. Sometimes the flights took me 22.5 hours continuously, for instance, from Beijing till Durban, South Africa. My understanding was, if I managed to get the legitimacy for the TNC, even if the battle on the ground is not over yet, then the case is over, you know. If we manage with my colleagues to seat the TNC in the seat of Libya and the United Nations, then the case is over. And this is what happened, by the way. TNC was seated in the United Nations in September 16th, while the liberation of Tripoli and the liberation of the total country just took place 3 days ago, you know. So, or 4 days ago. So it was not an easy task, without money, without arms, without, but there was a real will, a strong will, and there is the real support was from those young people on the ground, spilling their blood, you know, for the sake of their own country. So I cannot resist but salute their heroism and those who passed away, you know, for the sake of their own country.
Dr. Chabrel, we should also pay tribute to you, to your leadership. I would say collaborative leadership with the young people.
Thank you.
And we wish you personally, and we wish the Libyan people all the best, and we hope that all the aspirations will be fulfilled in a not too far, I underline, not too far future. And you can count certainly on the support of many here in the room and on the support of the World Economic Forum.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.